I think we're ready to start. I'm really excited. First of all, welcome everyone. I wish it will be a great conference for all of us. I believe in the power... First, let me introduce myself. I'm Melis. I'm a junior at Robert College, Istanbul. And I've been a part of Good for Trust for 3 years now. I've been working in the Social Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Creativity office at our school. And basically, this is me. I also really enjoy writing, especially short stories and poems. And I believe in the power of plentifulness, serendipity, and also mobility. And I wish that this conference will help us establish all of those values. And welcome again. Before we start, I would like to introduce our panelists. Let's start with Özge. Özge Doruk is joining us from Green Thought Association. She is a volunteer, an activist, and a researcher. And then next up, we have Vincent Liegey. Please correct me if I'm wrong with your name. Thank you. I learned it from Doruk. She knows French. He's a lecturer and writer on degrowth. Also, he's a spokesperson for the French degrowth movement. Next, we have Fikret Adaman. He's a professor of economics at the Boğaziçi University. And last but not least, we have Constanza. She's a human ecologist, a CSA farmer, and an environmental educator. And now I'll leave the stage to you. Welcome again.
So, I think it's working, yes. Thank you so much, Melis. And we are here as a Green Thought Association. This panel, we are organizing this. And we have limited time, so I'm just want to give the floor to Fikret directly. And after that, we will continue with the Constanza. So, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the title, I think, tells everything. End of growth. Right. Okay, so, well, first of all, we need to acknowledge the crude reality that today per capita income is unfortunately the main game in the town. Like it or not, it has been sort of acknowledged as the equivalent of development for many years. But of course, per capita income growth in it has many, many shortcomings. When you look at the history of development, roughly speaking, by 1980s onwards, academics, policy makers start to criticize that term, and then decided to develop alternative, more comprehensive development concepts and measurements. As you know, we have Human Development Index, SDGs, and so on and so forth. So there is a history behind it. Well, that's something that we need to challenge. This is the environmental Kuznets curve. On the x-axis we have per capita income, which means that, quote unquote, we keep growing and growing. Yes, and on the y-axis we have what? Environmental degradation. It goes up in the early stage according to the theory. Then there is a plateau, and then everything, starts to get improved. But we know, as Vincent, explained us very well, this does not correspond to the outside reality. So, that's the theory behind the environmental Kuznets curve. There will be structural change, less material intensive polluting sectors will gain prominence with a growing economy, and technological progress will increase efficiency, cleaner production, blah, blah. And then, of course, we'll have more environmentally aware and concerned, will be more sort of greener. So that's the theory. But the theory fails to acknowledge two important issues. The first one is biophysical limits that, again, Vincent mentioned in a very detailed manner, so I'm not going to replicate what Vincent said. The other one, which is somehow related with the first, is the thermodynamics law, which basically states that you cannot make something from nothing, and 100% efficiency in the transformation process is simply impossible, punto. So the green sort of technology has a belief that we can, transform everything with 100% efficiency. But in the reality, again, this is not true. And so therefore, as limits are reached, the ecosystem resilience will decrease. I mean, that's something that we need to depart from. And, I'm not going into the empirical challenge. Again, something that Vincent mentioned, the decoupling is limited. We have limits in decoupling. Eco-efficiency gains from technological progress rebounds, the so-called Jevons paradox. Aha, now I have a, super efficient electrical cars, so let me buy one. Yeah, I'm a green person, but I know that it's efficient. It does not have much ecological footprint. So that's the sort of way of thinking, if you wish, is behind this this belief in growth. And then growth and welfare happens, again, something that was mentioned. Well, I mean, why we keep underlying the importance of growth? Well, because we want to be more happier, right? But what about the empirical evidence? Well, certainly, yes, there is a kind of correlation between growth and happiness at the very early stage. And then after some point, it doesn't bring any additional happiness, or even sometimes in some cases, your happiness level may go down. Right. And on the other hand, there is a political economy behind this growing economy. There are those who gain and there are those who lose. That's something that we need to underline. I mean, we are not all in the gaining side. Some of us, and presumably most of us here in this very room, are losing from a growing economy. Those who gain from a growing economy are likely not in this very room, somewhere else, right? And so therefore, power asymmetries and distribution of environmental goods and bads need to be taken into account. And I'm an ecological economist working on these issues. So this is, I think, the very, very important points that needs to be taken into account. And so therefore, environmental justice, extractive conflicts, ecologically unequal exchange, ecological debt, all these concepts are key concepts when you unpack the political economy of the environment, right? Well, yes, perhaps we are on the same boat, but on the other hand, some are on the on the top and some are on the bottom. So beyond growth, something that started, correct me if I'm wrong, with the limits to growth report by Meadows and others in the early 1970s. So if you go back to 60s and 50s, you would find some contributions in the academia, but roughly speaking, ecological issues were started to be discussed after 1970s. And, you know, the sort of an alternative path was started to be unpacked, and people started to work on a degrowing economy, on different aspects of that. I mean, some focused on the philosophical side, some focused on the political one, and some, like myself, focused on the economic side. So, what about the proposals? Well, again, some were already mentioned by Vincent. Perhaps we may want to put some caps, resource emission extraction caps. We have to do our best to use fossil fuels. So presumably we need to put a heavy resource tax to deal with that. What about work sharing? What about basic income caps? What about local economy? What about co-ops? You know, all these issues are to be discussed, because degrowth is not only a degrowing economy, right? It's more than that. We are at the same time promoting democracy, participation. We are at the same time promoting solidarity, equality. So therefore, a degrowing economy should be conceptualized, understood as an alternative paradigm to the existing capitalist system. You may think of as a post-capitalist society. Well, of course, there are challenges and there are critiques that need to be taken into account, as otherwise, you know, we will be in a very kind of, we will perhaps be romanticizing this degrowing concept. We need to be strong enough to listen to and try to answer these challenges. Tim Jackson's Prosperity Without Growth, from my perspective, that is to say, for someone who deals with ecological economics, is the kind of Bible of this area. And it's also translated into Turkish. Büyümeden, tam hatırlayamıyorum, çok özür dilerim. I will tell you in a minute the Turkish translation. So basically, the book argues that we have to stop growth in rich countries by reducing energy and materials towards a steady state. But since no growth will bring unemployment, we have to make it sure to counterbalance this. And Professor Jackson has some very nice ideas. And also, we have to invest on ecological areas, though most of them will be low profit but high labor fields, sectors. And work sharing is also something that Professor Jackson mentioned about. I'm not going to get into the history of degrowth. That's something that I'm sure some of you are quite familiar. What about sources and roots? Well, again, you can see the justice issue, ecology and biophysical limits, a strong critique of development, meaning of life and well-being, democracy and autonomy. So all these issues are key issues that to be discussed, and this is the final slide of mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Evet, çok mersi. Kurtardın.
So, thank you so much. And until now, actually, it's good sentence that you used. The growth is not only about actually growing economy, that's more than this. And now we will continue to actually much more the practices with the Constanza. And now please take the floor.
Thank you. This slide is very nice, so you can just leave it for my presentation. I did not prepare slides or a presentation. Yeah, I would like to make it more of a conversation. You can hear me like this? Yeah, it's okay.
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay. Okay. So first, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me today to participate in the conference. I'm very honored and very happy to be here to share with you what I've been working on. My contribution is from the degrowth practices. So all of these wonderful ideas that we've been listening throughout the morning that really challenge us to try to think differently, so try to do things differently. This is something that I've been trying to put into practice. I really believe in the power of coming together and trying to create something that is new, something that is different, and bring it to life, bring it into reality. So since 2019, 2019, I started a CSA farm. I run a CSA farm with my partner in northern Italy, just north of Venice. Inspired by all of these degrowth concepts, all of these degrowth ideas, all of these big philosophical questions. How can we really bring something into reality? What can we do that is very practical? So we started a CSA farm. Maybe some of you are very familiar with what this is. Maybe others don't, so I will tell you very quickly how we organize the CSA farm, which is not the only way to organize it. There's many different ways to organize a CSA farm. We do it like this. Me and my partner, we cultivate the vegetables. So it's about 2,000 square meters of land that we cultivate. It's not a lot. It's very intensive cultivation, very intensive in the sense that it's, everything is very close together. And we also have hens, and we also produce eggs and vegetables. And we organize the group around us, so the community around us. The participants, that we like to call them our collaborators, not our clients. So this is not a client-producer relationship. It's going beyond that. It's trying to be something a little bit different than just producer and consumer. So there's about 40 families that take part of the community around us, and they get a weekly box of fresh vegetables. And what they do is they pay up front, so they pay at the beginning of the season for the entire season. That's how we do it. That's how we organize our CSA. There's many other ways of doing it. So CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. I'm not sure if I said that before. And there's many social implications, because I could talk about from the agroecological part. I won't go into that. I'm here to contribute and talk about the social implications of organizing food provisioning in this way. So from the point of view of the farmer, what I do, this is a livelihood for me. So this is my job throughout the spring and the summer mostly. It's a seasonal kind of job. This is meaningful. It's meaningful work for me. So we've heard these words before in the previous presentations throughout the morning about doing meaningful work. What does that mean? I found myself in front of this question, and I said, well, farming would be something meaningful. And I am very aware of all the privilege that it implies for this to be a choice. So for me to go to having studied in university to then deciding to go into this practical kind of work with the hands, like literally in the soil, I see it as an opportunity to have a downscaled lifestyle, so a frugal lifestyle, all in line with voluntary simplicity and doing meaningful work. That's the implications for me as the farmer. From the point of view of the collaborators, so the people who decide to provide for their families in this way, so not going to the supermarket to buy the vegetables that they need, but choosing to take part in this community. One of the important implications for them is from the point of view of the consumer. So they are deciding to come a little bit closer, actually as close as you can come to the producer, And in this, they're also taking a lot of risk. So by paying upfront for the vegetables that will be cultivated throughout the season, they are taking as much risk in the cultivation as I am as a farmer. So I'm not taking all of the risk. We are sharing, another buzzword that we've been listening to. We are sharing that risk and sharing that responsibility. And that's important. Like as the community around us, the community that takes part in the CSA, they're doing a lot of work in this sense as going differently, no, trying to move in a different direction than just the consumer who passively goes to and picks and chooses what they want or doesn't do it. They're taking an active role, coming very, very close to the producer. So it's this whole concept also of farm to fork. So from the farm directly to the table. It's not even that. Like, it's so close together. It's really hand to hand, like from my hand to your hand and then to your stomach. So it's a direct line. Another really, really important benefit for the collaborators, it's a little bit obvious, so I forgot to mention it before, is that they are getting healthy, local, as fresh as you can, completely seasonal vegetables. And this is a big benefit. Regarding the seasonal aspect, this is then related to the limits. So we've been listening to this word also, the word limits, and how do we work with that in practice? What does that imply in practice to introduce limits to the way that we live? Eating seasonally, that introduces big limits to your everyday life. So this means, for example, and I love to give this example, I give the same example all the time, that you will not eat tomatoes in January in this, at least where I live in the north of Italy. Those are not local tomatoes that you're eating in January. Those are coming from somewhere else, or they're coming from some greenhouse that has been, heated artificially. So to begin, we talk also about changing imaginaries. This means changing the way we live, the way we live our everyday lives. And food is a fundamental part of our everyday lives. So our collaborators are introducing these limits to the food that they eat, to the food that they provide to their families. And another very interesting and very unexpected thing that I've encountered with the collaborators around where I live is I really wanted to mention this because it's been interesting to get this feedback from women. So from the women that take part of my CSA, of our CSA. They've come to me more than once to thank me for helping them to lessen the mental burden of having to decide what to buy, because they get a weekly box of mixed vegetables that's it, like you get those vegetables, that's what we're eating this week. And I did not realize how much of a help, how much I'm helping, how much we are helping the women to lessen this burden. One of the many invisible mental burdens that women have in having to take care of humans, making sure that they're happy and healthy. We have to make all of these decisions, and through a CSA project, we are making that decision together, and we're making that decision with nature and with the rhythm of nature, right? Because the tomatoes, as I said, will not be coming in January. We will be eating so many of them throughout July and August that then you do not want to eat any more tomatoes for the rest of the year. Or you can put them away and then, do some kind of conserve, tomato sauce, etc., etc. There's many other ways to go about that. So my last point that I wanted to say was another way that we are then performing change, so bringing about these new imaginaries, these new ways of doing things, of trying to change society and change people's minds, which is one of the big things that we have to work towards. Through the CSA, I see that many of these things are achieved. and I'm super happy to do that work. But at the same time, it's important to say that we will not find a way out of this socio and ecological crisis through buying things differently. So it's not through consuming differently that we will find our way out, or that we will reimagine and explore these new ways of doing things. It's by doing things differently, but doing them together. So the difference between just being a passive consumer and saying, oh, I will buy organic, I will buy the organic solid shampoo. This is okay, and this is great, but this is not the solution to the current crisis. The solution is to do things together. So come in a community, in my case, a community-supported agriculture project that I know as well that is not the solution. Like, I am not naive as to think that I am, solving the world by having a very small scale CSA farm. But I know that I am changing people's minds, and that people are coming together to enact change in a community, and being active individuals within the community and not just passive consumers. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Constanza, and I thank you our speakers. Now, actually, it was a really good connection between from the theoretical to practice in our daily lives. So now Q&A session. If there's any question, we have the time for you.
Stop it. Stop it.
It's.
Thank you, but I want to ask Vincent, are you going to make a speech also? Maybe my question is more appropriate after that. I'm not sure.
No.
If you'd like to say a few words, that would be great.
But after, ask your question maybe.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So,
Already spoken enough.
This was actually inspired by the keynote speak by Vincent, and I'm Meriç, and I'm from Albatros Tech Cooperative, and we have come together with my partners. And what you talked about, and what Fikret and Constanza talked about, really, like, they were putting a light on a recent practice that we made. So we are part of tech cooperatives, international tech cooperatives community called Patio, and we have been struggling with the same things that you have been talking about. And I would like to ask, like, you were talking about being co-opted, like, so we are trying to change the world, and we are trying to change the imaginaries of the people, and that is also true for the tech world. But it's a very it's a road filled with traps, I think, because we have kind of failed it, actually. And we were trying to get into that progressive state of mind. But that can be when you talk about degrowth and when you talk about limitations. For some people, it can be perceived as going backwards, actually. Right. And that was a roadblock from us. And some of the cooperatives, as you can imagine, are more progressive. They are more towards anarchism. They're more towards, like, not consuming so much and using better servers and using the technology to create that. And some of the cooperatives are more interested in creating a more corporate, more capitalistic, and more, let's say, mainstream kind of economy. So those cooperatives, unfortunately, the latter ones have taken over in Patio. And then we were trying to build some principles about sociocracy and about those kind of things. But unfortunately, it has been co-opted. So I'm not hopeless, but do you have any, like, pointers, or do you have any, like, I don't know, tricks that can be appropriated? Maybe you were talking about marketing. I'm not sure how we will be able to, because it's really, like, difficult to change people's minds, because this seems very logical. Okay, let's make money, and then let's go on with that. But the other one seems to be less appealing to the people. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should I
Do you want to?
I will make 3 reflections if I'm allowed, because I would like to reflect also on both your great presentation. First one is about both of you. I think the question of care economy, reproductive economy, and so on. And I will start with that. When I say that GDP is making us blind, or capitalism is making us blind, I don't know if you have the same sentence in Turkish, but in France we say that every work deserves a salary. But when you look precisely, it misses maybe more than half of the tasks which are done daily in our society, and mostly made by women. It's so-called the care. It's everything which is connected with caring about each other. And I would add also a lot of things around informal solidarities, which are fundamental for well-being in our society. And I would add also friendship, when there is an accident and you go to help the person and so on. So when you see a child falling down in the street, even in US, where the mindset about capitalism is the most developed, people don't start to go on their computer and start to make a business model on how much they could make money on this type of thing. So we still have that. The problem is that in our dominant system, and that's where I wanted to reflect and to challenge you about work, we think that work and task has to go with a contract with a company, a corporation, and you pay, and you do the things and so on, where we can rethink totally our approach toward activities, about sharing the hard task, about giving lights to all the hidden fundamental tasks which are made daily, which are the most fundamental for our survival and even more for our well-being and so on. And I speak about everything which is out of the market, which reflect on both. And I think farming and cooking and caring is really highly fundamental. And the comment about the tomatoes, we're happy to cooperate with you, because we are about to implement one next weekend, because we are overproduction of tomatoes and paprika and pepper in the summer. So we are constructing a low-tech sun dryer. So we're happy to cooperate with that on you, and it's how the thing should go. And I think it's really about, and I really love your presentation about community, and it's also reflecting directly about the question of co-option. We can see organic market has been co-opted in the last year with our organic farm in Budapest, like a lot of other CSA organic farming and so on. We have the organic labelization. We could see with the rise, it's a collateral damage of the rise of greenwashing, the level of credibility of organic labelization well done, and the people are turning back from organic labelization, and we face the same problem as well. And the debate we had in our cooperative in Budapest, but I didn't win on that debate. It's much better to build on direct trust with the people, to really create a community, and not to rely on this type of big label, this type of things which could be very easily co-opted. So my advice toward your question is like, go small, step by step, start with your community, start with what you're able to do yourself or with your community and so on, and don't have big expectation of big growth, because you will be co-opted as soon as you start to grow. And also you have to be smart with that capitalist system, that if you start to make investment, you have to get back your investment plus the interest, so you're taken into the trap of economic growth. So the best is to start with no investment, but the only investment is your cultural social capital you put on board, and then you can start to build on that.
Yeah. Going back to the issue of organic certification, organic labeling. Our CSA farm is so small that we don't have. I mean, we could have it, the organic certification, but actually we don't need it. And that's the small is beautiful concept, right? So we are so small. I mean, we provide for about 40 or 50 families, which is not a lot, but also because we do most of the work manually. So there is a cap. We were hearing about caps, about limits. There is a limit to how much me and my partner can do with that piece of land, we will try to do as much as we can, but also while still having a life that is enjoyable. Yeah, I'm not interested in working from, I don't know, 12, 14 hours a day, although at some point in the season it is needed because nature has these crazy rhythms at some point that you just have to, run behind it. But then nature is so wise. Like, then I have the big pause in the winter when the snow comes and I don't have a lot to do outside. So I go in the house, I light the fire, I read, I play with my children. I work in environmental education. So I go do other work that provides me with another livelihood, that is another source of income. So I am following the rhythms that she's giving me, that nature is giving me, not the other way around. Like me trying to push or run behind or heat up the greenhouse to try to, so this is, in this way, this is changing mindsets. This is changing the imaginary. To your question about being co-opted and having to find solutions, I just want to say that I hear you, I feel you, I understand this frustration, and it's not easy. So maybe we can start there. We can start by recognizing that it's work. I'm here today telling you about all the beautiful things, about all the nice aspects. Like, I'm not here to start a list of the negatives because there are so many, and it's hard. It's so hard. It's hard work. The most important thing, I think, is about, so going back to the issue of community, the fact that you're here today listening to other people who have similar ideas, who support you, who encourage you, I think that's fundamental. So surround yourself with people who have similar ideas and who will give you hope, who will help you to not lose the hope. Because, yeah, as Vincent said in his presentation, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than to imagine the end of capitalism. Like, we find ourselves in front of this, like, gigantic thing, and we say, oh no, well, we don't have to do it alone. That's the main thing. We're not alone.
And if you do it alone, you fail. So
yeah, exactly. Don't even try.
Yeah.
Well, as being the boring academician in this room, well, I would like to turn back to your, I think, very important point. And here I would like to refer to the famous economic historian Karl Polanyi, who came up with the idea that capitalism makes the economy disembed from the society, and in such a way that the economic life starts to, capture the entire society, dominating everything. What needs to be done? And it seems that scale is important here, and therefore local examples are key point, is to make it sure that society re-embeds the economy. So therefore I'm talking about, or rather Karl Polanyi talks about re-embedding the economy back into the society. And I think imaginaries, coming up with new imaginaries, is the right term here. And it's a long journey. You can't simply, make the change with just one example. You need to make it sure that it's a marathon. It needs endurance. Yes, it takes time, but we shall overcome.
Yes, so to the point of re-embedding the economy and society, examples like the CSA farming are doing this specifically in that, in the face-to-face aspect, no? In the hand-to-hand aspect. The people who are eating those vegetables that I am cultivating, they know me. They know Constanza. They know that I am the farmer who has done all the work, that has given water to that salad that you then put it on your plate. This is re-embedding in this. It's putting a face to the food that otherwise is faceless. So why do we need to create things like the organic labeling, the organic certification? Because we are in a we live connected to a production world that is completely faceless. So you have no idea who took care of the cows that gave you the milk that made the yogurt. you don't know. We are completely disconnected. So by bringing these things closer, by actually we as people who participate as consumers, we can say, okay, like I would like to be more active. I would like to bring myself somehow closer to the producer, and in this way re-embedding. No, like also it's also giving a face to it.
So we are over our time. Maybe just if there's just one more question, and if
there is like a one-sentence question, I think we can take it. Otherwise, I think our panelists would be eager to answer the questions outside as well.
Okay.
One-sentence question then. The growth term, does it help movement to spread ideas of the growth science?
Yes, because we are more and more invited everywhere. So a very simple answer. First, it didn't help, but as everything has been so much co-opted and decredibilized, that they turned back to the only one which was not co-opted yet. So yeah.
Okay, I guess that was shorter than I expected. It's time for lunch now. We have vegan lahmacun, and vegan lahmacun tastes really good, like normal lahmacun. I've tried it before, I suggest it. And then back at 1:30 we have a Doughnut economics panel here with Ekinal, Ali Ercan Özgür, Burcu Küçükünal, and Erin Sağ, and you're more than welcome here. So see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.